Johnson, who takes time during the week to put together these beautiful slides, both that introduce the service and then have the hymns connected with them. She puts a lot of thought into making them beautiful for us. So it seems apropos that this month's theme is imagination. We're about to embark on a journey together with Alliance, as Marie mentioned, to explore, after 50 years of this, since this church's birth, how and if our current building and location may serve us into the future, or if we'd be better served someplace else. This coming week and into February is when we have an opportunity to continue to imagine what living into our vision and mission could look like. I am so grateful to the board as the key leaders in this congregation who have decided to proceed with this process so we can resolve some longstanding questions of space and place and mission and vision. Those of you who were with us in 2019 were at the workshops that Laura Park led that helped us identify core parts of our identity as a congregation and our shared dreams and vision. And there is energy and joy and love and possibility forever present at Michael Servetus Unitarian Society, or for you newcomers, we call it MSUS. Although the building doesn't make a church, people make the church. A building also tells a story about who we are and who we want to be. How one feels as they turn down the road towards our church home, how they feel when they enter, or how does the building serve dynamic and flexible worship where we can all be seen and heard and have access down the aisle and onto the chancel or the stage up front? How do families know that they're welcome there? Where do kids and teens and tweens see themselves? Where do people who are more fragile in stature or just need physical space around them to feel safe find locations that welcome them as well? Do we have ways that visitors who might join our church or individuals or groups who may never join but share our dreams can either enter the space and use it and know that they are welcome as well? A building isn't something that contains us. It should encourage the ways we want to be together as a community. It should support our vision and help us breathe life into a world that can often feel lonesome, frightening, and chaotic. I remember when I was interviewing as a candidate to be your minister, and the search committee and you as a congregation spoke of being a beacon of liberal faith in the northern suburbs. In the years since, it's clear that that desire continues, but that we've fallen short of all that we dreamt we'd be able to do in just a matter of years together. One thing I have learned, and I hope you have as well, is that change doesn't come quickly in church time. I want you to know that I and so many of you haven't given up hope. On the contrary, I believe that this adventure we're embarking on is a visible sign of hope and creative possibilities for our future together, for both those of us who are gathered here today and for those we have yet to know. This week we have seen the unimaginable. On the same day as people were pumped up by our own president and staged an insurrection at the Capitol, a record 3,915 people died of COVID, making Wednesday the deadliest day of the pandemic in the United States. And at the same time, Georgia made history. I feel like that alone just requires a deep breath just to literally stop and take in the magnitude of the day we've just witnessed. Fighting against obstacle after obstacle in a state that has been called ground zero for voter suppression in the United States, Georgian voters turned out in unprecedented numbers for the runoff. This is with the background of, in September, 198,000 Georgians wrongly purged from voting rolls. It's with the background of, during the general and runoff elections, polling places being closed, some people who requested ballots not actually receiving them, several bomb scares in polling places prior to the runoff day, and information saying, it's been said that information on the state's website was incorrect or misleading. And yet, And yet, despite all of the obstacles, the people of Georgia executed their right to vote. And now we will see 2 senators connected to civil rights leaders in the past and today. Warnock, the pastor at the storied Ebenezer Baptist Church, the church where Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was baptized, who chaired the New Georgia Project, a nonpartisan organization focused on voter registration from 2017 to 2020. He attended Union Theological Seminary in New York, which is a place that many of my colleagues have attended. It's an amazing theological seminary. And John Ossoff, 33 years old, born and raised in Atlanta, who interned with the late Congressman John Lewis when he was a high school student. Because of the results in Georgia, there is a sense of hope and potential once again for many, not for all, Unitarian Universalists. So many of our core values defined in our UU principles, such as the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relationships, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the goal of world community with peace, justice, and liberty for all, and the respect for the independent web of all existence of we are part. All of these may return to represent our country and our leadership. Georgians who dreamt of a different America imagined it could be done. They worked relentlessly. They lifted up what they believed was needed in terms of future policies and dreams of this country, and they ignited a voting population that changed the course of current events. Ashley Horan, who's local, but is also the national organizing director of the Unitarian Universalist Association, wrote a prayer for UU the Vote, which was to motivate volunteers who wrote postcards and made phone calls and sent texts to disenfranchised voters during the general election and this latest runoff. Many of you were involved in that work. Thank you. Thank you. Ashley's words capture the spirit of imagination and impossibility. She says, another world is possible. We say it again and again, even when the proof lies somewhere beyond the horizon, beyond our reach, beyond our imagination. This is our faith. Another world is possible. Not somewhere else in another world, another lifetime, but here and now, for us and for all. Another world is possible. There's no single path towards that world. There's no one strategy or approach that will restore balance and heal brokenness, sow wholeness, free creation. There are many routes towards liberation, towards freedom, but the abundance of options does not absolve us from the responsibility of acting. I'm having a little freeze here in my technological world. That's not a happy thing. That's really a sad world out here. There we go. Let's see if the world gets better. Here we go. Another world is possible. The call, the duty of each moment in history is to discern. Who are we? And what can we bring with humility, integrity, and faith? What's the context? And how can we address it with agility, resilience, and skill? What's the vision? And how can we realize it with accountability, relationship, and joy? She says another world is possible in this time of despair, of fear, of collapse. This time that is both like every other era and like no other time in history. It is audacious to declare our faith, to commit to our work, to a world that is more free, more just, and more whole. But we are an audacious people in good company with many kin, and we're ready to show up and work hard and stay humble and make friends and hold the vision, starting here, now, today, with us ever persevering, however long it takes, until that other world is not only possible, but another world is here. Let me repeat the stanza that strikes me most at this time in the life of our church. Another world is possible. The call, the duty of each moment in history is to discern. Who are we? And what can we bring with humility, integrity, and faith? What's the context? And how can we address it with agility, resilience, and skill? What's the vision? And how can we realize it with accountability, relationship, and joy? At MSUS, we say we celebrate in a actively examine faith, that we challenge one another with loving kindness to bring our best selves and to work for a flourishing world. We say we draw on shared values of mindful interdependence, authentic curiosity, and courageous love. Let those words we created together inspire your imagination so we can continue to realize our mission and vision. Those who find their way to our faith and our community are seekers, searching for something more in their lives, a place to nurture their spirits, and a faith that calls us to be active in the work of justice. I raised my kids and I interned and I worked in large UU churches where the bench, as I call it, was quite deep, with several ministers, with numbers of administrators, several people on the religious education staff, custodians, yes, that was custodians with a plural, and hundreds of members. I'd be lying if I said that I don't sometimes feel defeated by having dreams bigger than our actual church size can reach or accomplish. I find there are times that I focus on the obstacles more than I focus on the possibilities. Thank goodness, there are more times when I recognize the gifts of a small congregation, especially MSUS, where we can all know one another and continue to change and explore our values and faith, evolve and grow in our understanding of white supremacy cultures and systems that permeate our nation. Last week, as I was thinking about imagination, I was going back to when I worked at Hamline University as the internship program director. Our offices were in a small building on the side of campus. The Career Development Center where I worked took up the first floor of an old house that was also home to the counseling services and academic success services. Students came to us for services, and we knew what we provided could give them tools to navigate school, work, and learning outside their classrooms. We also knew that often what we provided through working with students could and did change the course of their lives. At a staff retreat one year, we began to envision what we wanted the future of the center to be. We spoke of wanting to be more central in the campus, where students could find us with ease and we could feel the pulse of the community. And somehow, within a year, we were offered a space on the first floor of a building awfully close to the center of campus. We were located in a place with heavy foot traffic, and our office had these windows looking out on campus, which let students see us as they walked by our offices. And we were no longer out of sight or out of mind. Those windows also gave us a view of the student life. During registration week one year, we could see that students swarmed the registration office like a swarm of ants, and we saw that lines were formed, and we saw that students stood idle, and witnessing this gave us an idea. And so that the next time we saw a round of registration dates, we worked the lines. We brought brochures and we started having conversations with captive students who had no other choice than to engage with us. We were proud of our guerrilla marketing tactics, and we saw it as one way to inform students about our services. We also found that we as staff started to go to the faculty staff dining room more often, since it was just a short walk away. We began to build relationships with faculty members who started to refer students to us. In time, over years, our numbers grew exponentially, and more importantly, students were better served. Thomas More said, "We tend to consider imagination too lightly, forgetting that the life we make for ourselves individually and for the world as a whole is shaped and limited only by the parameters of our imagination." I tell the story of the Career Development Center as an example of what came out of bold envisioning a bit of luck, and relational work, which was consistent over time. I've heard and I've seen the spark of imagination in many of your eyes, and I know that those of you who keep turning on computers and iPads and phones on Sunday mornings and throughout the week, even when you are so tired of being connected virtually, have found that this faith community makes a difference in your life. Perhaps it's changed the course of your life or given you new tools to help you live a life that works towards the world where you and we and all can flourish. Teresa de Soto writes in her book, in her poem, Finding Our Dreams, the antidote to doubt is dreaming. All the dreams call to you. The dreams that seem impossible. Listen, that's their nature. If they had already happened, then they would be realities, solid and smooth like the round bone home of an unbroken egg. Be brave enough to name your dream. Nurture it and allow the rhythm of your breath to bring your dreams to life. I encourage you to take time in the weeks to come, maybe times when you're feeling super stressed out by what's happening in the world. Take time to ground yourself prior to entering these workshops that Marie spoke about, just to sit quietly and dream about our congregation. Let go of the obstacles that may block your way and let your imagination find a space that speaks to the core of what our faith in our community is about. Who's there? What are they doing? What are you feeling? What's your relationship to the people you see? Are you always in the building, or at other times are you out in the community? If you're out in the community, what are you doing as part of the MSUS community? How does your living your faith in an audacious way look like to you? Give yourself some time and space to wander. Write it if you like to, or simply daydream. Allow yourself to move beyond who and what we are today and into a community that is answering a call both within and beyond our building. I do believe that another world is possible, and I want us to be part of creating that world together. May it be so, and amen. As we have just a few moments for discussion, I don't want to enter into what our church should be like or what we will be dreaming about together when we get into workshops. That will happen at another time. But I'm wondering if some of you would like to bring into the discussion, maybe offered in the language of a prayer, what type of world you want to see. So maybe using the words of may we see, or let there be, or something like that. I would say, may we see a world where there are alternatives to policing, where we remain safe and we keep each other secure, yet we find compassionate ways to greet challenges in the home and conflicts on the street, and move deeper to the root of the sources of violence. Does somebody else have a may we see, or let there be, or some other prayer that they'd like to share?
May the eyes of those we disagree with open to the reality of what has happened over the last year, but especially the last several weeks.
You, Marie. I see Haley raised her hand.
May we see a time and world where people put people over money and things.
Thank you. I see Pamela wrote, may we see a world where we can disagree with respect for one another. And Melissa wrote, may there be less greed and more contentment.
Jamie.
May there be a world where we trust one another again and treat each other with kindness, and speak the truth.
Thank you, Jamie.
Beth Strootman.
Yes, I was going to say trust. May we find trust and an eagerness to celebrate differences with respect.
Thank you, Beth. Beautiful. Kathy Burke wrote, may we treat our planet and its non-human inhabitants with respect and care. We can move on to our hymn unless you see somebody, Katie.
I'm not noticing anyone either.
All right, our closing hymn is We'll Build a Land. Some of the words have been changed for those of you who know